mansion glimmered with chandeliers, marble floors, and echoes of shallow laughter as guests drifted from room to room, sipping champagne as though they owned the world. In one corner, a quiet girl named Amara stood with her books clutched tightly to her chest, her dark curls spilling over her face as if she could hide from the gold-coated cruelty around her. She was the cleaner's daughter, brought only because her mother had been called in to work an extra shift during the party. Her mother, Rosa, had begged her to sit quietly, to stay invisible, but fate had other plans. For as Amara passed through the glittering halls, the millionaire's wife, Veronica, spotted her, eyes narrowing with disdain. "Who let you in here?" she hissed loud enough for everyone to hear. "This isn't a playground for the help's children." Guests turned, whispers spreading like wildfire, and Amara froze, her face burning with shame she had never deserved. Veronica stepped closer, heels clicking like a metronome of arrogance, and with every word she spoke, Amara shrank further. "Look at you," Veronica sneered, circling the trembling girl as though she were prey. "Those ragged clothes, that messy hair. You think you belong here among silk and diamonds? Don't make me laugh. You'll never be more than a shadow dragging behind your mother's mop." The guests chuckled nervously, torn between discomfort and the thrill of witnessing cruelty dressed as entertainment. Amara's lip quivered, but she did not reply. Her mother's voice echoed in her mind. Be polite, be invisible, endure. Yet tears welled in her eyes, betraying her. She wanted to vanish, but Veronica wasn't done. "Speak up!" the woman barked. "Or has your mother taught you only how to scrub toilets?" Laughter rang out, cruel and cold, echoing through the golden hall. But at that very moment, a figure entered the scene like a storm cutting across sunshine. Marcus Sterling, the millionaire host himself, husband to Veronica and master of the estate, had returned from greeting foreign investors outside. His sharp eyes scanned the circle of guests, and in the middle of their smug smiles he saw a trembling child. His heart clenched, his jaw tightened, and a dangerous silence fell as he approached. Veronica, unaware of his arrival, was still spitting venom, lifting a manicured hand as though to brush Amara away like dirt. But before her hand fell, Marcus's voice cracked through the air like thunder. "Enough!" Every head turned instantly. Veronica froze mid-gesture, her smirk dying on her lips as she met her husband's eyes filled not with indulgence, but fury. The crowd shifted, tension rippling. Marcus stepped directly between his wife and the cleaner's daughter, his towering presence shielding Amara completely. "What are you doing?" Veronica asked nervously, trying to regain composure. Marcus didn't blink. "I'm asking you that question. What exactly do you think gives you the right to humiliate a child? And not just any child, Rosa's child. The woman who has cleaned your messes, cooked your meals, and kept this house shining when you were too busy preening in front of mirrors?" Gasps fluttered through the guests. Veronica's face flushed red, her pride wobbling beneath the weight of his words. "Marcus, she doesn't belong here. She's just—" But Marcus cut her off sharply. "Just what? Just human? Just innocent? Just more dignified than the woman who insults her?" His voice rose, and the silence that followed was absolute. Amara stared wide-eyed, unable to believe what was happening. Never in her life had anyone defended her like this, especially not someone as powerful as Marcus Sterling. Her tiny frame shook with the flood of emotions she couldn't name. Veronica, desperate now, reached for Marcus's arm. "Darling, you don't understand. She's nothing. She's the daughter of the cleaning staff. We can't have her wandering among the guests like an equal." Marcus turned his head slowly, fixing her with a glare that could shatter glass. "And who told you that a title or money determines worth? Who decided you were the judge of who belongs and who doesn't? If this child is nothing, then what does that make you? A woman who finds joy only in breaking others." His words struck deeper than any blade, leaving Veronica pale and trembling. The guests were no longer laughing. They were shifting uncomfortably, realizing that they had laughed along with cruelty, that they had been complicit. Some lowered their eyes in shame. Others stared at Marcus with new respect. And then, to the shock of everyone present, Marcus turned and knelt down to Amara's level. His voice softened, his fury melting into compassion. "I'm sorry," he said gently so only she could hear. "I'm sorry for what you've endured in my home, a place that should never have made you feel small. You are not invisible here. You are seen." Amara's tears spilled over, but now they weren't tears of shame. They were tears of relief. A hand so powerful had reached down to lift her up, and in that moment, Her small world changed forever. Veronica tried to laugh it off, forcing a brittle smile. "You're making too much of this, Marcus. It was just a little joke, nothing serious." But Marcus rose slowly, his gaze colder than ice. "A joke?" he repeated. "If cruelty is your idea of humor, then perhaps this marriage has been built on nothing but lies." The words stunned the hall into silence. Veronica staggered back as if slapped, her painted confidence crumbling. Never had Marcus spoken against her publicly. Never had he turned his immense authority against her. But tonight was different. Tonight his eyes had been opened by the simple truth of a child's pain. Whispers erupted among the guests. Some muttered that Veronica had gone too far for years, that her arrogance had always been unbearable. Others marveled at Marcus's defense of the cleaner's daughter, calling it noble, even revolutionary. In a world of wealth and hierarchy, this was unheard of, a master of the mansion choosing dignity over status, humanity over pride. Rosa, who had been working in the kitchen, heard the noise and rushed in, heart pounding, only to see her daughter clutched safely by Marcus Sterling himself. She dropped the tray in shock. "Amara!" she cried, rushing forward, but Marcus held up a calming hand. "She's safe," he said firmly, his voice like an oath. "Safer than she has ever been under the roof of my wife's cruelty." Rosa fell to her knees, weeping, torn between gratitude and fear. "Sir, please forgive her," she begged. "She didn't mean to cause trouble." "She's just a child," Marcus interrupted gently. "The only one who needs forgiveness here is not your daughter. It is Veronica, and perhaps all of us who stood by laughing." His words spread like fire, consuming the shallow pride of every guest who had chuckled at Amara's humiliation. In that instant, Marcus Sterling didn't look like a man of wealth. He looked like a man of justice, a father figure to a girl who had never known such protection. And when he took Amara's trembling hand in his own, lifting her high before the crowd, a hush fell over the room. For in that gesture, everyone saw something greater than money or power. They saw love, they saw truth, they saw humanity restored. The night that had begun with cruelty ended with revelation. Veronica slunk away, her pride shattered, while Rosa held her daughter close, whispering gratitude through her tears. Marcus turned to the guests one last time, his voice resonant. "Let this be remembered," he declared. "Wealth does not excuse cruelty. Power does not give the right to humiliate. From this night on, no child, no worker, no soul under this roof will ever be treated as less than family." And as the words echoed through marble halls, hearts shifted, eyes opened, and the mansion was forever changed. Amara, once humiliated, now stood tall under the shield of justice. The guests slowly trickled out into the night, but the echoes of Marcus's words refused to leave with them. In carriages, limousines, and whispered calls, they repeated what they had seen. The master of the mansion standing not with his wife, but with a poor child. Some scoffed, saying Marcus had ruined his dignity. Others, however, felt something stirring in their souls, a reminder that money does not shield the heart from truth. And among them were people of influence who vowed never again to tolerate the cruelty they had so often excused at banquets and galas. For one brief moment, the entire city's hierarchy felt shaken, as if a stone had been thrown into waters that had been still for too long. Veronica locked herself in the master suite, pacing furiously in her diamonds, the humiliation clawing at her skin like fire. Never had Marcus dared embarrass her before so many people. She gritted her teeth, vowing that Amara and Rosa would pay for this, that somehow she would crush them so completely they would regret ever stepping foot in her path. But deep inside, beneath her fury, a shadow of fear lingered. She had seen something in Marcus's eyes she had never seen before, a line she could no longer cross. For years she had mocked, belittled, and manipulated without consequence. Tonight she had finally awakened a man who had remembered his conscience, and that terrified her more than anything. Downstairs, Rosa sat with Amara, tears streaking her face as she cradled her daughter. "You should not have had to suffer that," she whispered, voice cracking. Amara leaned into her mother's arms, the weight of shame replaced with warmth. But then Rosa's gaze lifted as Marcus entered, his shoulders heavy with the burden of what had unfolded. He did not wear the smugness of a man with power. He looked instead like a man who had been forced to confront the cracks in his own home. "Mrs. Rosa," he said quietly, "tonight should never have happened." I cannot change the pain you've endured, but I will not allow it to continue. Rosa shook her head, wiping her eyes. Sir, you've already done more than anyone could ask. You defended my child. That is enough. But Marcus stepped closer, his voice steady. No, it isn't. It is not enough to defend once. Justice is not a moment. It is a responsibility. I failed to see what has been happening under my own roof. From now on, you will never again feel like mere servants here. Your daughter will be treated with the dignity she deserves. His words seemed impossible, almost like a dream, but the fire in his eyes told Rosa he meant every syllable. Amara looked up at him, her small hand trembling as she whispered, "Thank you, sir." The next morning, the mansion awoke to whispers louder than any birdsong. The maids, butlers, and gardeners buzzed with astonishment. Word of Marcus's defense of Rosa's daughter had spread quickly among the staff, and for the first time in years, hope lit their eyes. They had lived under Veronica's iron tongue, enduring her insults in silence, believing their lives were doomed to servitude without respect. But now the man of the house himself had broken the chain. They looked at Marcus differently now, not just as a master, but as someone who might finally see them as human. For Rosa and Amara, it was like walking into a new world, one painted with cautious hope instead of endless fear. Veronica, however, was not finished. At breakfast, she sat across from Marcus, her smile cold, her voice sugar-laced with poison. You've embarrassed me, humiliated me in front of everyone. Do you understand what you've done to our reputation? Marcus set down his coffee slowly, staring into her eyes without flinching. No, Veronica. I understand what I've done to you. I've exposed you, and if our reputation falls because I chose decency over cruelty, then perhaps we never deserved that reputation in the first place. Her fork clattered against her plate as fury rose within her. But she found no victory in his words, only the bitter truth she could not silence. Later that day, Marcus called Rosa and Amara into his study, a room lined with shelves of leather-bound books and windows that overlooked the gardens. Amara clutched her mother's hand tightly, nervous about why the master wanted to see them. Marcus stood by his desk, his expression serious but kind. I've spoken to the headmaster of St. Clair's Academy, he said, turning to Amara. It's one of the finest schools in the city. You have a sharp mind, Amara. You deserve more than cleaning rags and shame. You deserve an education. I would like to sponsor your studies. Amara gasped, eyes wide with disbelief, and Rosa covered her mouth with trembling hands. Sir, we cannot accept such... Marcus raised a hand. This is not charity. This is justice. Tonight you will never again be the girl mocked as the cleaner's daughter. You will be Amara, the scholar, the dreamer, the one who rises. Tears spilled down Rosa's cheeks as she tried to form words, but none would come. Amara, shy but bold in her heart, stepped forward and whispered, I will make you proud, sir. I will not waste this gift. Marcus knelt again, as he had the night before, meeting her eyes. You owe me nothing, Amara. Just promise me this. When you are older, and the world tries to tell you that you are less because of where you come from or the color of your skin, you will remember this moment. You will remember that worth is not given by others. It lives inside you. His words lit something in her, a fire she would carry forever. News of Marcus's decision spread faster than even Veronica's bitterness. By the end of the week, whispers of the millionaire who defended a cleaner's daughter filled not only the city, but also the newspapers. Columnists praised his courage, calling it a rare display of conscience in a world blinded by gold. Veronica fumed, her plans to spin the story back in her favor collapsing. The more she tried to paint Marcus as weak, the more the world celebrated him as strong. And Rosa, once invisible, now walked through the halls with a dignity she had thought forever denied to her. Amara, clutching her new school books, felt her life unfolding into something brighter than she had ever dared imagine. But storms were not yet over. For every eye that admired Marcus, there were others watching with envy, jealousy, and resentment. Friends of Veronica whispered poison into her ear, urging her to reclaim her dominance before she lost everything. And deep in her heart, Veronica swore vengeance, not just against Rosa, not just against Amara, but against Marcus himself. For she could not forgive the one sin she hated most, being exposed. The war within the Sterling mansion had only begun.